There's something they never taught you in school. 12 years, hundreds of hours in a classroom, and not a single lesson on the one thing that will quietly shape the entire trajectory of your adult life: money. And the question nobody seems to ask is, why? Why, in over a decade of mandatory education, is there no financial literacy, no investing, no accounting, no understanding of how wealth is actually built or lost?
Only 57% of adults in the United States are financially literate.
We really have not done a great job at preparing this next generation to make adult decisions.
Was it an oversight, a gap in the curriculum that nobody noticed? No, it was a choice, a very deliberate, very intentional choice. And to understand why, we need to go back to where the whole system began. The year is 1717. Prussia, a kingdom in what is now northeastern Germany, and King Frederick William I has a problem. He needs soldiers. Loyal, obedient, unquestioning soldiers. Men who will leave their families, march into battle, and die for the state, and believe, with everything in them, that it was the right thing to do. So he builds a system. Not an army. Not yet. First, he builds a school. A compulsory, government-mandated school system, the first of its kind in the modern world, and every single detail of it was engineered with one purpose: to produce the perfect soldier. Think about what school looked like from the very beginning. Kids sitting in rows, facing one direction, for hours at a time, bells ringing to tell them when to move, when to stop, when to eat, strict respect for authority, standardized testing, not to measure curiosity, but to measure compliance. Even PE wasn't about health. It was about discipline, training the body to obey. And the curriculum, filled with one message: the state is everything. Your country is worth dying for. Because if you could convince a child of that before they were old enough to question it, you didn't need to force them onto the battlefield. They'd walk there willingly. This was the Prussian model, and it worked. Around 1840, an American educator named Horace Mann traveled to Prussia, and what he saw fascinated him. An entire population of children, organized, disciplined, obedient, molded by a system, shaped by design. He came back to America with one mission: to bring that system here. Horace Mann today is called the father of the American public school system, and he was remarkably effective at spreading his vision. He got influential people on his side. People with money, people with power, people like John D. Rockefeller, one of the wealthiest men in American history. And it worked. State by state, across the Union, compulsory schooling systems began to appear for the first time in the nation's history. By the year 1900, virtually every state in America had a government-mandated public school system. And in 1903, the General Education Board was established, a body designed to directly influence what was taught in schools across the United States. But here's where something important shifts. In Prussia, the goal was soldiers. But America wasn't building an empire through military conquest in the same way. America was building something else entirely: an economy. Factories were rising, industries were expanding, and for all of it to work, for the gears of this new industrial machine to keep turning, it needed one thing above everything else: workers. Not thinkers, not entrepreneurs, not founders or risk-takers or people who questioned the way things were done. Workers. Reliable, consistent, obedient workers who would show up on time, follow instructions, and trade their hours for a paycheck every single day for the rest of their lives. And so the Prussian model was repurposed. Same structure, same bells, same rows of desks facing the front, same standardized testing, same emphasis on compliance over creativity, but the output changed. Instead of soldiers, factory workers. And by around 1910, for the first time in American history, an entirely new kind of population had emerged. A nation of employees, people who had been trained from their very first day of school to their very last, to do one thing, work for somebody else. Not to own, not to build, not to invest or create or think independently about money and freedom, just to work. And then, almost perfectly timed, the government made its move. In 1913, the 16th Amendment was passed. For the first time in American history, Congress was given the power to collect an income tax. Think about that sequence for a moment. First, you build an entire generation of employees, people who earn wages working for corporations their entire lives. Then, the moment that system is fully in place, you introduce a tax on those wages. Corporations got their workforce, the government got its cut, and the people in the middle, they got a desk, a paycheck, and 40 years of Mondays. And perhaps nobody captured the true intention behind it all more honestly than John D. Rockefeller himself. I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. So now you understand the machine. A system built from the ground up, not to educate you, but to produce you. To take a child, run them through 12 years of conditioning, and deliver a finished product on the other end. A compliant, capable, ready-to-work employee. And within that context, ask yourself this question again. Why isn't money taught in schools? Not just money, but investing, taxes, accounting, compound interest, assets versus liabilities, the difference between building wealth and simply earning a wage. Why is there 12 years of schooling and not a single serious lesson on any of it? Because it would destroy the entire system. Think about it. The whole machine, the corporations, the tax structure, the economy as it was designed, depends on one thing. People who need to work. People who, the moment they leave school, have no choice but to find a job and keep it. People who live paycheck to paycheck, not because they're lazy or unintelligent, but because nobody ever showed them another way. That dependence is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. Because here is the hard truth about money. If you truly understand how it works, if you understand investing, compound interest, tax strategy, cash flow, assets, you start to see an exit, a way out of the 40-year grind, a path to building something that works for you instead of the other way around. And a population that can see the exit is a population that stops being useful to the machine. Look at what school actually rewards. Good grades, attendance, following instructions, respecting authority, memorizing information, and repeating it back correctly. Every single thing the system celebrates, from kindergarten through college, is training you to be a better employee. And the students who excel at all of it, they don't become the entrepreneurs, they don't become the founders or the investors or the people who build generational wealth. They become the best employees, the most reliable cogs in the machine. Meanwhile, the kids who couldn't quite fit, the ones who were too restless, too curious, too resistant to just sit down and comply, they're often the ones who go on to build companies, challenge industries, and change the world. Not because they were smarter, but because the system never fully got to them. But here's what this video is really about. Because knowing how the system works means nothing if you don't know what to do next. The financial education they never gave you, the investing, the taxes, the understanding of how wealth is actually built, that's what we're getting into now. And it starts with something simple, a shift in the way you see money entirely, not as something that controls your life, but as something you can learn to control. It starts with understanding what money actually is. So let's start with the most basic question of all. What actually is money? Not in the textbook sense, not the dictionary definition, but what does money actually represent in your life, in the real world, every single day? Most people think of money as a number, a balance on a screen, something that shows up on payday and disappears shortly after. But that framing keeps you stuck, because it reduces money to something passive, something that just happens to you. Here's a different way to look at it. Money is a representation of value. Every time it changes hands, every transaction, every purchase, every paycheck, what's really being exchanged is value. You buy a meal because you value it more than the money you paid for it. You get paid at your job because your employer values what you bring more than the cost of keeping you. That's it. At its core, money equals value. Now, why does that matter? Because the moment you see money that way, you stop giving it a moral weight it was never meant to carry. Think about how many people grow up with an almost instinctive suspicion of wealth. The idea that rich people are greedy by default, that somewhere behind every fortune there's a victim, that wanting money is somehow a character flaw. And look, there are absolutely people who accumulate wealth through dishonesty, but that says everything about those people and nothing about money itself. So strip away the guilt, strip away the shame, strip away the idea that wanting financial freedom is somehow greedy or shallow. Money is a tool, and like any tool, it's only as good or as destructive as the hands holding it. And once you see it that way, clearly, without all the emotional baggage, you can finally start asking the right questions. Not just how do I earn more, but how do I actually understand it? How do I make it work for me instead of the other way around? And that starts with looking honestly at your relationship with money, where it comes from, where it goes, and why. So now you understand what money is, but understanding what money is and actually managing it well are two very different things. Because here's the reality. Money doesn't just sit still, it moves, it flows in and it flows out. And the relationship between those two directions, how much comes in versus how much goes out, is what determines your entire financial position. There's a simple framework that puts this into perspective. Production versus consumption. Production is how money enters your life, your job, your business, your investments. Any form of value you put out into the world that comes back to you as income. Consumption is how money leaves. Your rent, your groceries, your subscriptions, your car, every purchase, every expense, every lifestyle choice that carries a price tag. And the gap between those two things, what you produce minus what you consume, is essentially your financial reality. It's the number that tells you whether you're moving forward, standing still, or slowly sinking. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most people, when they think about their financial problems, immediately jump to the production side. I need to earn more. I need a better job. I need a raise, a promotion, a side hustle, more income. And while increasing your income absolutely matters, and we'll get to that, the harder truth is that for most people, the real problem is on the consumption side. Consider this. Studies show that 77% of workers in America would experience financial difficulty if their paycheck were delayed by just 1 week, not 1 month, 1 week. That's how thin the margin is for most people. But what makes it truly staggering is that this isn't just a low-income problem. Research consistently shows that a significant portion of people earning six-figure salaries are caught in the exact same trap. Because the problem was never really about how much they were earning. It was about the relationship between what they earned and what they spent. And when consumption grows to meet or exceed every increase in income, more money doesn't solve anything. It just raises the stakes. This is what behavioral finance calls lifestyle inflation. The quiet, almost invisible tendency to expand your spending every time your earning expands. A raise comes in and suddenly the apartment feels a little too small. The car feels a little too old. The vacations feel a little too modest. And before you know it, the extra income is gone, absorbed completely by a lifestyle that grew to swallow it. And underneath all of that is something even more powerful, our own psychology working against us. There's a concept called the ostrich effect, our tendency to avoid negative financial information. It's that feeling when you don't want to check your bank account after a weekend of spending, or when the credit card bill arrives and you put it aside without opening it. We avoid the information because seeing it makes it real, and making it real means having to deal with it. But avoidance doesn't make the numbers change. It just means you're no longer in control of them. And when you're not in control of that gap, when consumption consistently meets or exceeds production, you end up in a place that has a very specific name, a rat race. The rat race, you've heard the term, gets thrown around a lot, usually attached to the idea of a 9-to-5 job. The alarm goes off, you drag yourself out of bed, you sit in traffic, you spend 8 hours doing work you don't particularly love for a company that doesn't particularly notice. You come home exhausted, you do it again tomorrow, and while that image is relatable, it's not actually what the rat race is. Because there are plenty of people who work 9-to-5 jobs and are perfectly content, people who find meaning in their work, people who have ambitions and pursuits entirely separate from their careers. People who simply enjoy the stability of a steady income, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. The real rat race has nothing to do with what you do for a living. It's about the edge you're living on. It's that feeling of being one paycheck away from everything falling apart, where money enters your life and disappears so fast, it's almost as if it was never there. Where an unexpected car repair or a medical bill or a sudden job loss doesn't just cause stress, it causes a crisis. Because there's nothing underneath you, no cushion, no buffer, no breathing room. And the more responsibilities you accumulate, a family, a mortgage, dependents, the narrower that edge becomes, the higher the stakes get, and the more trapped you feel. Think about what that does to a person psychologically. When your job is no longer a choice but a necessity, when you can't afford to walk away, can't afford to take a risk, can't afford to say no, your entire relationship with your own life changes. You're no longer working towards something. You're just running, keeping pace, staying afloat. That is the rat race, not the job, the trap. And here's the part that nobody talks about enough. The trap isn't built from one bad decision. It's built slowly, quietly, through years of consumption slightly outpacing production, through lifestyle choices that felt completely reasonable at the time, through the social pressure of appearing successful rather than actually building something sustainable. There's a phrase for this: keeping up with the Joneses. The idea that the people around you set an invisible standard, the car they drive, the house they live in, the clothes they wear, the vacations they post. And without even realizing it, you start measuring your own life against theirs and spending accordingly. And in today's world, the Joneses aren't just your neighbors anymore. They're everywhere.
They're shaping the thoughts and feelings and actions of people. They are programming people.
We are all vulnerable to social approval. We really care what other people think of us.
On every screen, every scroll, a constant, curated highlight reel of other people's consumption, and the pressure to match it, to at least appear to be keeping up, quietly drives financial decisions that have nothing to do with what you actually want or need. The result is a life that looks fine from the outside and feels suffocating from the inside. But here's the thing, the rat race is not a life sentence. The first step out is the simplest and the hardest at the same time: awareness. And awareness starts with tracking. Not budgeting yet, not cutting back yet, just watching. For 1 month, write down every single thing you spend money on. Every coffee, every subscription, every impulse purchase, every bill, all of it. No judgment, no restrictions. Just honest, accurate observation of where your money actually goes. Most people who do this for the first time are genuinely shocked. Not because they're doing anything outrageous, but because the small things add up in ways that are completely invisible until you put them on paper. This is where budgeting comes in. And before you switch off at the mention of that word, budgeting isn't about restricting your life, it's about understanding it. It's about taking what you learned from tracking and using it to make deliberate decisions. Deciding in advance how much goes to housing, food, transport, entertainment, not based on habit, based on intention. From there, it becomes about one simple principle: live below your means. Not below your happiness, not below your dignity, just below your income. Leave a gap, a deliberate, protected gap between what you earn and what you spend. And into that gap, you build your foundation. That foundation starts with an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses set aside and untouched. Not invested, not spent, just there. A buffer between you and the unexpected. Because the moment you have that buffer, the moment a crisis becomes an inconvenience rather than a catastrophe, the edge you were living on starts to widen, and the trap starts to loosen. And once that foundation is in place, once you are no longer one bad month away from disaster, you can start thinking beyond survival. You can start thinking about growth, about building, about what it actually looks like to get ahead rather than just keep up. That is the beginning of the exit. So you've built the foundation, you understand your consumption, you've created the gap, you have a buffer between you and the unexpected. Now comes the other side of the equation, production. And this is where most financial conversations stop being honest. Because the advice you'll hear most often, save more, spend less, clip coupons, skip the daily coffee, is not how anyone has ever built real wealth. It's how you stop bleeding, and stopping the bleeding matters. But it's not the same as actually getting ahead. At some point, the gap between what you earn and what you spend can only widen so far from the consumption side. There's a floor to how little you can spend, but there's no ceiling to how much you can produce. So the question becomes, how do you increase the value you bring into the world? For most people, production begins with a job, and that's completely fine. A job is not the enemy. A job is a starting point. But the mistake is treating it as the only point, because a job, by its very nature, trades your time for money, and time is the one resource you can never get more of, which means a job alone will always have a ceiling. The people who break through that ceiling are the ones who find ways to produce value beyond the hours they work. And in today's world, there are more ways to do that than at any other point in human history. Think about what the internet has done. It has taken the barrier between a person with something valuable to offer and the audience that needs it, and practically dissolved it. A person with genuine expertise, a useful skill, or even just a compelling perspective can now reach thousands, sometimes millions, of people directly. And when value reaches people at scale, income follows. This is why you see people building businesses around content, around software, around communities, around solving specific problems for specific people. Take Jimmy Donaldson, better known as Mr. Beast. He started making YouTube videos as a teenager with no money, no connections, and no resources. Just a camera, an idea, and an understanding that the internet could carry his content to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
There are channels out there that literally have 2 million subscribers, and I'm over here happy that I have 2 million views.
Before the age of 25, he had built a media empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Not because he got lucky, but because he understood that value delivered at scale returns at scale. Now, this doesn't mean everyone needs to become an entrepreneur. Not everyone is built for it, not everyone wants it, and that's a completely legitimate position. But what it does mean is that understanding yourself as a producer, asking honestly what value you have to offer and how you can offer more of it, is one of the most important questions you can sit with. Maybe the answer is developing a skill that makes you significantly more valuable in your career. Maybe it's building something on the side that starts small and grows over time. The path looks different for everyone, but the principle is the same. If you got value from this video, all I ask is to give it a like and leave a comment below. It helps the channel a lot. And subscribe for more videos like this on wealth, money, and business.